All right. So you and I come from two very, very different perspectives on fishing. And today we're going to dive into those perspectives on what fishing is to us. So if you are wondering who we are, I am Stormy Cochran,
I'm Andy Cochran.
and we are the voices behind the Level Up Fishing podcast.
We want to talk to you all today about fishing and different styles of anglers and what we kind of feel like is we're going to call it the social media effect.
Yeah.
So, this could be a lot of things. Of course, we're all on social media. Sometimes in our line of work, maybe it's like the necessary evil to keep ourselves out in front of the public. But it's a fun way for us to interact with everyone out there too, and share ideas and share wins and victories and pictures and celebrate everybody's wins.
Ask questions.
Yeah, ask questions, get help, which is what we really in the beginning, what everybody really wanted from social media was a way for people to connect in a positive way. And as we've seen it grow over the years, start to see a lot of negative effects on social media as well. And so we wanted to sort of bring some of those to light and get have you guys listen to some of our perspectives on, how things are portrayed versus how they really are.
Yeah. I am not your typical fisherman. I will tell you exactly what I was doing, exactly where I was, how I was doing it, what time of day it was. I will not tell you the right name of the location because I can never seem to get those correct, but I will do my darndest. I clean that up. I will do my darndest to give you all the help I can possibly give you when it comes to fishing. And a lot of people are not that way.
Yeah, it's a funny thing about fishing and hunting both is it seems like it's really the only sport where it feels like you're flying solo.
Yeah. And I just don't agree with that. I think I understand that we have a unique situation in that we live in an area that you have to travel to go fishing. And so we don't see the crowds like you do in the city around a city lake or pond, or on the outskirts of like Denver, where everyone has limited fishing resources. And so you get a lot more crowding. And I understand we do not have that. We have a giant lake, the biggest lake in Colorado, and you have to travel for an hour, at least an hour to get here. And so a lot of anglers don't want to do that. And so I understand that our situation is a bit different. I know if we lived in the city or in a more crowded area, that I would still be the same way I am now because I want to see people succeed. I am so lucky that you were happy to take me fishing. And in the beginning, I didn't fish. I just went on the boat, and I'm competitive enough that eventually I was like, okay, I want to do that. I want to I'm only, you guys, this is poor Andy. This is horrible. I'm only competitive with him. Like he's the only one I'm competitive with. And so I got competitive and I wanted to learn to fish. And it took years, but you were always so willing to bring me and our girls along. And I learned to love it. Like I love everything about it. And I would love to help other people get into the sport or learn in the sport and have that same feeling that fishing gives me.
Yeah, so that brings up, two different very perspectives on why we fish, what's our reason for it. And like Stormy said, she enjoys the whole nature aspect of it, there's so much more going on
Mhm.
besides just waiting to feel a fish on the end of your line.
Yep.
And then, like, where I come from, I grew up my whole life doing it. And of course, it's like one of the funnest things you can ever do. Um, but as a highly competitive person by nature, and then this quote solo sport, you're directly competing with these wild animals, trying to trick them into being caught on what you're trying to trick them into thinking it's food or something they want to bite. So for me, that's a lot of fun. So I get a lot more, I dive a lot more into the actual like fishing and catching when we're on a fishing trip. And so that's sort of my perspective about it.
You know what I love about you is that you don't see, like, you're a tournament fisherman, and obviously you would love to win every tournament there is, right? But you just said you see the fish as your competitor, not your fellow boaters, your fellow tournament people. Obviously, you want to win, but you're competing against the fish. And I've always, always loved that about you, is that it's not, you don't sit there and you're like, oh, these anglers are my competition. You're like, oh, I'm my competition with the fish. I just really love that about you.
Yeah, because then, when you start getting into the upper level, at least bass tournament world, if you're not comfortable enough fishing around other people, then you're not going to be able to survive very long in that environment. So having that mindset of I'm competing with the fish and nobody else, that's really kind of where you need to be in that sort of environment too.
I love it. Now, okay, so let's go back to social media. There are thousands of Facebook groups, fishing groups out there. We're not as much on Instagram and TikTok, but obviously there's just tons of content when it comes to fishing on social media. And I feel like, especially seeing and talking to anglers that we've met through social media, is that a lot of people are really hesitant to post unless it's this monster personal best fish that they've caught, and you see these people who post fish after fish after fish. And okay, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but one of my pet peeves is blurring out the background. Again, I get it that there's people who or areas that have issues with overcrowding and things like that. I get it. It's just my personal pet peeve. I hate that you are blurring out the photo. It's like, at that point, why are you sharing it then? But again, that's my personal pet peeve. Um, but you see people post all these, and then if you have been fishing and fishing and fishing and you're trying and you ask for help and you get yelled at for asking for help because maybe you didn't word it the best way or whatever it may be. So it feels like a lot of anglers are a little, I don't know, gun shy of social media and asking those questions or posting their 14-inch trout that they worked so hard to catch. And it's such a bummer to see.
Yeah, so I have a lot of close friends in our hometown too that I even heard this comment the other day from one of them that uh I don't even know if I told Stormy this yet, but this kid that I work with at the store, Gene Taylor's, if you haven't been there, it's awesome. But he said that his dad was upset because the guides, quote, were gonna ruin the perch fishing on his lake.
Oh,
And I'm like,
okay.
you've got to be kidding me. Like, this is like the mentality of I have mine, so you can't have yours.
Yes.
And so that has been a thing that's been a pet peeve of mine forever is just because you feel like you have a species or a spot or whatever figured out for your style or species of choice in your own local area, by no means makes it yours, and it also by no means makes you any better than anybody else to say, somebody's going to ruin your fishery because we're posting perch photos, which that's like a really ridiculous one because clearly the perch are
They are,
borderline overcrowded in our
yes.
lake now, and so it's at some point it's going to be an issue that we're going to have to address as far as the ecology of the lake
Yep.
for one thing. So we're always encouraging people to fish for those things and keep them because of that issue. But the part of it that like he's all butthurt about is we have these like 14, 15, 16-inch perch that are legit world class perch. Like people think of Cascade Lake in Idaho, and like, well, you better put Blue Mesa on the map with that too because it's there.
Yes.
And so what he's worried about is people flocking from all over the country to fish for perch like they do at Cascade, and it's like, well, they've been doing that at Cascade for like 20 years, and there's absolutely no rumblings of there being any kind of issues with that perch fishery. So the problem is that mentality of just because that's something that I get to do, that I think it's mine because I discovered it, which nobody did, they're just here. All of a sudden, I have to keep it all a secret and I can't tell anybody how to do it. And that's exactly what we like are really leaning off of, like trying to get away from.
I can't even begin to understand that. That would be the same of us saying, we've been guiding on Blue Mesa for 17 plus years. We can't share any of the knowledge we have learned about that fishery. Sorry, it's our lake. That's ours. We can't tell you what to do.
Yeah, so that I mean that's another I can't think of the word, like a stereotype.
Yeah.
Like we're guides, so nobody can talk to us about fishing because we're not going to tell you anything, or we're going to give you the wrong answers for everything because we don't want you catching our fish. And
That's not how
that's
we
totally
think.
not how it works. Like our whole goal for GSO fishing as a whole, clients, customers of the lures, people in our group, people that we just talk to and interact with on the dock, whatever it is, we want you to engage in the sport of fishing and find as much fun as we do. Because let's face it, like if we're in that industry trying to make a living, obviously recruitment is a huge part of that. And so we're huge proponents of getting kids out fishing and growing that love of the sport, when you're a little kid, like some of us were lucky enough to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like later life recruitment, like in Stormy's example, she really wasn't fishing until later in life, and now she really loves it. And so it's something that brings us together as a family, friends, all of that. So that's our goal. Like we're not out here to post a bunch of giant fish pictures and blur out the background and be like,
It's our
hey,
lake.
look what we caught on our lake. If you want one, book a trip. That's not how it works. It's like if you're coming up and you're spending your hard-earned time off and your hard-earned money to come and have some fun, and for some people like me, and you want to have what fun means to you when you're fishing is winning against the fish, through this whole podcast series as we go forward, we're going to give you a lot of insight into techniques of how we do it
Mm-hmm.
and how that works for us. But at the same time, like if you look from Stormy's perspective on the fun part of fishing, we also want you to enjoy the lake, the camping spots, what can you do in the wind, all those different things.
Because no, I mean, like, tell me, how often do you go fishing and it is the exact same scenario every time? There's never we have been fishing for years and years and years, and we've never had like a repeat of the same day over and over. It is always different, and I love everything about it. Even I even love standing on the shoreline of Blue Mesa and casting out my lure and closing my eyes and just feeling that lure come in, and it's cold and the wind is cold and the sun is shining on my face. It that invigorates me more than any other part of it. I love it so much, and it helps like recenter my mind. We do a lot. We have a lot. We have a lot going on, and to be able to get out there and just feel something for a minute, that to me is fishing. That's what it's all about. Our girls getting out there, like you said, our family getting out there. And let's face it, I get really distracted by the birds.
Storm is a bird watcher.
And I'm not even a bird watcher. I don't even know what the species are or anything, but I just love birds. Like,
Luckily, I'm pretty good at bird ID, but
it's just, there's so much to love about it. And that brings up another part of social media for me that's so frustrating is people belittling other people for their catches or non-catches. And the reason that bothers me so much is because one, it's a whole experience. It is so much more than just catching fish. It is fishing and everything that goes with it. And you see those joke I get that they're a joke, but again, it's a pet peeve of mine of people being like, "Oh, if all you're posting is sunrise photos, then are you even really fishing?" And I'm just like, you know what? Okay, first off, you were out there at sunrise. Do you know how many people will not get up and get out there before sunrise? Like that to me, you are out there, you are trying. Good for you. If the only thing you caught is the photo of a sunrise, good for you for trying. It just drives me crazy. Like, why belittle other people that are out there doing it and trying? I just don't. As you can hear, it is something that really, really frustrates me. And I just don't understand that. One scenario is we had a couple come to us this summer and say, "We have been fishing Blue Mesa for 7 years and we have never caught anything." And I was so blown away, not by the fact that they hadn't caught anything, but by the fact that they had tried coming to Blue Mesa for 7 years, over and over, trying and trying. Like the dedication, that is so outstanding to me and way more impressive than any fish they could have caught in that time because they tried. You know how many people would have given up after the first trip, the second trip, the first year? They kept trying for 7 years, and that is so impressive to me.
yeah, that's the whole part of fishing is eventually you want to be able to win. Like in my example of, I think it's fun when you finally get it figured out, and it's like the ultimate like satisfaction. Like, all right, I dialed it in. Now I know how to catch them.
Yes.
And so, like, clearly that couple that came, we were able to take them out fishing, and they caught a whole bunch of fish, and they learned a ton on how to tweak their own setup and what they can do with their equipment and how to make it work for them. We showed them what we do, but that not is not necessarily the right way for everybody, but it gives them it gave them a base to start with, and then they could adapt it to their boat or their preferred fishing style or whatever it was. But clearly they were getting something else out of all of those trips to keep them coming back.
Yeah.
And so there's a ton more to it than just hooking and landing fish. There's way more stuff outside of that to think about.
Now, so kind of circling back to our topic of social media, it's hard in this day and age to filter out all the good and all the bad and who is giving you sound advice and who's not. But I really don't want every angler to just write it off because there are still tons of great people out there that are willing to help, that want to help. And the only way you guys are going to find each other is more than likely through social media.
Yeah, I think even if it's just connecting with other people that might be in your area and then, going fishing with them one on one rather than, just lighting off a bunch of questions to a mass group, because you're always going to run into those keyboard heroes that think they're way cooler than you, which is a sad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes how you word or ask your question can kind of direct which direction that goes to.
For
Not,
sure.
having like really open ended questions can lead to a lot of way left field answers that you're not looking for. So there's ways you can ask questions in groups to maybe get the answers you're looking for, but I think more than anything is you kind of nowadays you do have to kind of sift through the all the different answers you're going to get, but you're going to find people in those groups or answers in those groups that are truly helpful. And that it really is a good way to help you out in dialing in your fishing successes. Nobody goes out, regardless of your age, goes out fishing without asking somebody some kind of questions about something. Like you're gonna go to a sporting goods or whatever to go buy your first fishing pole. You probably research that somehow or ask somebody at the store advice on what setup to get or what lures to get or
Yeah.
where to go fishing or whatever. So you have to start somewhere. So
Yeah. Research is always good. Researching the fish species that you want to catch or the lake you want to go fish at. Um, like look for fishing reports. Like we provide a fishing report on Blue Mesa every week. We post it in our Facebook pages and groups and email it out to our email list. Like doing research that way is always helpful. But overall, I hope that anglers remember that fishing is supposed to be fun, and sometimes when you're on social media, it can kind of suck the fun out of it a
right.
little bit. Just figure out where you are. How can you level up? And is it, I've been fishing this lake for a long time, I haven't caught anything, I need to do some research, I need to maybe reach out to some specific anglers, maybe get in a specific group that is about that body of water. There's so many ways that you can use social media to your advantage. And then, yes, there are definitely some trolls on there that make it a pain in the butt. But overall, we hope that you just find what is fishing to you. What about it makes you happy? Like Andy said, we come at it from two very different perspectives. And I think the reason I come at it from my perspective is I am so grateful that Andy never ever once was like, no, I'm gonna go out because it's like my thing. I'm gonna go do my thing. He was never like that. Every question I've ever asked, he's answered, even if he's given me a bit of a side eye sometimes. He's always been supportive no matter what. And we fish different styles, we do different things, we like different lures, and we have figured out how to make our fishing adventure ours and make it fun. What works for me doesn't work for him, might not work for somebody else.
Yeah, and we've always used that phrase over the years, especially in tournament fishing, is I can't go catch your fish and you can't come catch mine. And basically what that means is if I'm out on a certain body of water at a certain time and I find a pattern that I get dialed in for my preferred method or whatever it is, say I'm on this crazy brown trout bite with jerk baits on Blue Mesa on secondary points on the first channel swing in each creek arm or on the main lake, that's going to be Greek to a lot of people. But
Me.
there's also going to be people that I can tell
Mm-hmm.
straight up. Like, man, I was out yesterday. I was throwing a Lucky Craft 112 in Aura Black on 10-pound fluorocarbon with a jerk pause 5-second cadence on secondary points on every single creek arm on this particular lake at this time of day with this water temp, with this wind direction, with this sun condition. And I promise you there's going to be nobody that can go replicate that. But then somebody else could take that info and go to those spots and catch those same fish on a tube jig because that's their game.
Yeah.
Or they'll take that same jerkbait and they'll go out on the main lake and catch those fish on walls. Something I didn't even look at.
Yeah.
So look, at the end of the day, if somebody's got a 25-pound lake trout in their photo, and you can totally pinpoint the shoreline, the hump, the point, the flat, down to the exact square footage of where they caught that fish, so what? That guy caught that fish. He probably released it. That fish is back down there doing his thing. Like 99% of the time, nobody's ever going to go to that spot and catch that fish the way that guy caught it.
Exactly.
And so that just puts some perspective into, spot sharing or whatever that whole issue is with people is, people have their spots and they have their methods that they like to fish for these species. And for the most part, it's a hard thing to replicate. And so we really want to get away from that mentality of, hey, I got mine so you can't have yours. Like, I'm going to post this super awesome picture of this 30-year-old fish I caught. And every question somebody asks me, I'm going to say, oh, I hooked it. Where'd you hook it? In the mouth. Where'd you catch it? In the water. Like, really? Like, you can really, legit tell somebody exactly what happened. Like Scott Enlow on his giant trophy.
Yeah.
He told everybody the rod, the reel, the line, the spot, the lure, the hook, everything. Everybody knows what time of year it was. Everybody knows how deep he was. Anybody catch? He let it go. Anybody catch that fish again? No.
Right?
Anybody else catch a fish on that spot? No. It doesn't matter. Instead, you see those people doing those sorts of things and they're proud enough about their success to want to show it off,
Yeah.
so to speak. And, the majority of the time, I think it's well deserved.
Yes.
And those people should, if nothing else, just be like, congrats, man. That's a really awesome catch. Way to go. I'm sure you had a ton of fun. Thanks for giving us the hope that can happen for anybody. Like, if you have that kind of dedication, you too can catch a fish like that if that's what you're into.
Yeah, and be genuinely excited for them. Like, I don't get the internet trolls that sit there and they're like, oh, look at your 14-inch trout. Like, hey, look at that trout. Like, good for you. You put in the work. You caught that.
Like, heck yeah, you put it all together and caught it. Like, that just as easily could have been a 25-inch trout. And then everybody would have been like, oh, but it's only a 14-inch trout.
No.
It's like, no, that was something that was pointedly worked for getting, and they caught it. And that is awesome. They had fun. That's the whole point.
Let's celebrate each other. Like, congratulations. You put in all that effort. Scott, congratulations. That is outstanding. Literally world-class fish. And, how cool to know that there are fish that big in there.
Yeah.
He crushed the state record and smashed the world record and still put it back and didn't get the world record because he put it back. Good for him. How awesome is that?
And, and him and countless others have been since on this lake and have caught and released thousands of pounds of giant lake trout since.
Yep.
And it hasn't hurt a thing.
Exactly.
Except it's given people, some kind of a goal that they can go out. If that's your mentality, going out fishing, be like, the only way this is going to be fun for me today is if I figure out how to catch a big lake trout. It gives you hope that that's something that you can do and be successful at.
And I'm the opposite. I'm like, oh God, we have to lake trout fish today.
Oh, we gotta fish all day for 2 bites? Oh, that sounds
Can,
great.
can we go perch fishing instead?
Yeah. So it's whatever
What
makes
makes
you
you?
happy.
Yes, exactly. And then like, we met. They started out as customers and turned into friends. They have gone fishing with us multiple times a year, every year on our guide boat, and they just bought their own boat. We could sit there and be like, oh man, that's horrible. That's like lost revenue for us. And no, hell no. Oops, sorry. I mean, heck no. I am so stoked for them. Like, they got their own boat. Like, how cool is that for them? Like, think of all the memories they're going to make on it. And the first thing they did was like, hey, can we get some GSO stickers? Like, how nice that they still want to do that on their boat. And like, I love it for them. I'm so happy for them. Just please get out there, support your fellow anglers, support, like, I don't care if they caught a 2-inch fish, like, congratulate them. That is outstanding. Maybe they got a new boat, whatever it may be. Spread some kindness, Lordy.
Yeah, in this Halloween season, it probably doesn't really apply. But we're giving out candy, so that's joy for little kids. So you can take that mindset and put it into fishing. Just be like, you know what? If somebody asks for a trick or treat, stop giving them tricks and give them a treat.
Yeah. Make somebody smile. Like, good golly.
It's all supposed to be fun.
It's fun. It's so much fun. And it's all of it. What part of fishing is fun for you? Please, if you listen to this podcast and it's on Facebook or YouTube, comment what is the funnest part of fishing to you? We want to know because obviously Andy and I are very different. And I've kind of let loose some of my fishing pet peeves today. So please tell us, what is your favorite part of fishing? We would love to hear it.
And as we go forward, our goal is to help you level up your fishing game. And so, keep looking for these podcasts that we're going to put out that are going to give you techniques and different methods to help you maybe add something to your arsenal. Again, things that work really well for us. And we're going to pass those along to hopefully help you enjoy your fishing experience even more.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Level Up Fishing Podcast.
We'll see you on the water.